for the WA Lecture Series. This is the first WA Lecture Series, Episode 1. Never been done before to my knowledge, but I'm super excited about it. I'm super into WA history and everything like that, so I'm really happy to be able to talk about it, and I think it's something that a lot of people would like or would be interested in from what I hear, because right now we're having our Festival of Hope, which is all centered around celebrating Einarjar and specifically Hope's Last Stand. And a lot of people don't actually know what Hope's Last Stand is or means or anything like that. So it's a great time to talk about that and explain the origins of the festival. So the plan is for this to go somewhere in the vicinity of 30 minutes to an hour. We'll see how long it goes, how long it takes me to get through what I've got written down here, and we're also going to have a Q&A at the end of it, with where people can ask questions, we can discuss the lecture, everything like that. So we'll see how long that goes. This will be a bit of a test drive for the WA lecture series. So without further ado, here we go. So in talking about Hope's Last Stand, there are a few key members of Hope's Last Stand. So in order to kind of jump into it first, I did want to address a few people that a lot of WA members probably have heard these names or even know quite a bit about these members, but still worth bringing them up. So the first person I want to talk about is Dane himself. So if you don't know, WA was founded by Dane, now known as Saint Dane the Proud, on June 1st, 2001. Now, when Dane founded WA, he used a lot of stuff he had learned from being in several different clans over the previous 3-ish years or so. Um, Including things like saluting, calling officers sir, the way things were organized into divisions and platoons, how everyone was split up that way. This is all stuff that he picked up or that was influenced by previous clans, such as the Jedi Academy Masters and the Imperial Dominion. Were two of the big ones that he was in. He was in many of these clans with some other longtime famous members of WA, including Warrior, as also known as Sir Warrior, Royal Knight of the Bunker, close friend of Dane for a very long time. They were in those same clans together for years, and Warrior was also a founding member of WA, the Warriors of Icer. So, there was also a few other key people, one of them being Varsus, known as Varsus of Old, who was a real life friend of Dane, lived down the street from him, they were close friends, and Varsus was known for sticking by Dane's side through thick and thin, through various clans. Varsus was also a founding member of WA. And next will be Commander the Black Saint, who is technically not a saint, but he is an Einarjar, founder of House Commander and the first recruit of WA, first member recruited post June 1st, 2001. Commander was known for rebelling a lot, leaving the clan a lot, getting exiled a lot, causing a lot of problems, being very immature. He was recruited into the clan at the age of 8. And actually, the reason his name is spelled Commander with an A instead of an O is he didn't know how to spell it. So Dane thought that it was done as kind of a cool thing, so Dane never corrected him. He thought it was like, oh, his name is Commander, that's kind of his spin on it. He didn't know that Commander actually accidentally misspelled the name. But here we are today with the same spelling as well. So Commander as well being a not a founding member of WA, but there from the very beginning. Just a heads up, Eld, you're kind of popping
I
up
know,
here a
I'm
bit with voice
sorry.
activity. No problem. And then lastly is Saint Dippity Dog, the Scourge of Spies and the Great Recruiter. So Dippity was the founder. Well, so he was the founder of House Dippity in most respects, but we'll get into why there's some asterisks there a little bit later on. But Dippity was recruited by Dane himself. He was known as another loyal member of WA. He was recruited in August of 2001, so about 2 months after WA was founded, and he would stick around for a very long time to come. So those are just a few key figures I wanted to introduce before we get into it. So WA, founded in June 2001, continued for right around 7 months. Um, Now we already actually had some discussions on the Ragnarok. Pato gave a great talk on that. So if you're interested in the Ragnarok, that is in a previous fireside chat, and there's also a lot of info on the forums as well. Um, So I'll just start with a brief overview of the end of the Ragnarok. Essentially, WA's Ragnarok was a catastrophic event that resulted in the vast majority of the members leaving WA, the forums being lost, the website being lost, the clan channel on Battle.net on StarCraft being lost as well. Basically, a huge disaster for the clan. WA effectively died due to the Ragnarok. Now, what happened there was a few members, namely X-Cal, Neo, and Derelith, took over all of those various venues for WA, brought them down, spammed them with stuff, banned everyone from them, banned Dane himself, etc. And almost everything was lost. Dane did actually save the original message board's contents in a moment of quick thinking when he saw all this happening, but the clan itself essentially died. Everyone went their separate ways. Neo and Derelith left to join a Jedi Academy Masters, JAM, as they're usually called, who I mentioned earlier. WO was effectively dead with only a few people left. So Dane began a operation which he called Operation Exodus. And in doing so, he set up a new board and a new clan channel, a secret one, Asgard, which would later be used as a secret channel for WA for many, many, many years, about 10 years or more. But inactivity still persisted with WA, and basically everyone who was left wound up departing to different rebel clans. So at this time, there was about a month-long recruitment effort. So we're talking about 2002 March right now. Only a single recruit stuck around, a guy named Goliath. And then in April, one of the last kind of heroic officers at WA, High Templar, would rebel against WA, and he would take Goliath and a few of the remaining members. So now, that was in April of 2002 that High Templar left. We're getting into late April. WA once had 50 more members in its prime during this first fleet era, is what this was called. Was left with only Dane, Saint Deputy, Commander, Varsis, and Commander's recruit Petter, and Osiris, who is one of Dane's recruits. Over the next month in May, Dane was grounded, which, if you read WA history, is a recurring thing. So Dane was grounded, and during that time, Osiris went inactive and left. Commander and Petter both rebelled from WA, left, and formed a new clan, Armed Forces, which would war with WA for quite a long time. And in June of 2002, Dane is ungrounded. He does return, but he finds that virtually nobody is left in the clan save for Deputy and Varsis. So at this point, Dane decides to form a new clan, basically a successor to WA. Now that clan will be called Hope/Stand. He called it that because he lost his forums website so many times, there was so many rebellions, all these issues, he felt this was WA's last chance, their last stand to survive. So this was founded with Dane, Deputy, and Varsis as the three founding members. So basically Hope/Stand. Initially, Varsis was not very active. I mean, Dane could easily contact him because, like I said, they lived on the same street, but Varsis wasn't particularly active online, and Deputy, similar deal, Deputy was known to be very busy. So it was essentially only Dane. This often made Dane lose faith, but he did talk to Warrior, his close friend, and Warrior convinced him to keep going. So at this time, Dane used a second computer to create multiple WA accounts on the channel to make it look like the clan was more successful, so that it'd be easier to bring in recruits and convince everyone that WA was doing well and was a clan they would want to join. During this first wave, he was invited by Commander to join the rebel clan Armed Forces. Dane declined. Now he did recruit a member along this time named Dunq Lodalh, whose name means fierce, angry rebel in Klingon from Star Trek. So at this time, the first house ever in WA was created called House Lodalh, and Dunq Lodalh became its first lord. Now, later on, this house would evolve to form House Deputy because Deputy himself was placed into this house. Because at this time, houses weren't lineage based. They're sort of just like warbands as we know them today. They're just a group. Loosely bound together, and a Deputy was placed into House Lodalh. Now, one alias I wanted to bring to mind is Dane's alias, Wilf. So Dane himself, he used the alias Wilf to write songs and stories for WA. Wilf was supposedly the Skald of WA. It wasn't till many years later discovered that Dane and Wilf were the same person. But he often used this alias Wilf. Like I said, he created multiple accounts and stuff like that to kind of make the channel a little bit more lively or appear that way. Now, Dane's first order of business was to bring down armed forces, Commander and Petter's rebel clan. So he decided to send himself in the form of Wilf to warn armed forces that their clan would be destroyed. So a High Templar, that a captain who had rebelled previously and who was now in armed forces, followed Wilf back to WA's channel and made fun of them, laughed at them, thought it was a ridiculous threat. So Dane now goes and he forms a war council, and at this time, with Dane trying to figure out how to bring down armed forces, Sanctifico the Conqueror would be recruited into WA, just a basic channel spam recruit by Deputy Dog. But Sanctifico joins and quickly makes a name for himself, even as a lowest-ranking member in the clan. He, along with Wilf and the rest of Hope's Last Stand, spam the Armed Forces clan channel and boards, but they get all their accounts banned as a result. However, through the work of Sanctifico and Dane himself, they infiltrate the boards 2 more times, eventually cracking admin passwords, stuff like that, and bringing the boards down as Armed Forces abandon them. Now, Armed Forces tried to retaliate and raid Hope's Last Stand board. However, Hope's Last Stand was in fact a fake board that Sanctifico had set up as sort of a decoy. And during that raid, Sanctifico actually stole the IP addresses and information of a lot of the people who raided HLS's fake board and used it to attack armed forces once again. At this point, Dun Q Laudalh had become inactive, and Saint Sanctifico is made the second Lord of House Laudalh, which would later become House Dipity. So today we consider Sanctifico the second Lord of the House of Laudalh and the House of Dipity. Is kind of the official title system that we use. So at this point, armed forces would ally a new huge clan that had sprung up called MMM, or the Mighty Masters of Mayhem, who were founded by a guy named Anaconda, also known as Lantoka, who would wind up being sort of a key enemy of WA over the years. So MMM and armed forces were allied. However, at this point, Hope's Last Stand decided to ally with MMM as well. Sanctifico agreed to do so. However, Dane disliked the alliance but allowed it to happen. Despite MMM giving armed forces a lot of bots on StarCraft to try to defend their clan channel, their in-game clan channel with, Sanctifico still brought them down, and finally armed forces fell apart. At this point, there were a few other clans formed from the fragments of armed forces or other former WA members over the previous months, including SW and TF. We actually have lost the full names of some of these clans, but it's one of those unfortunate losses of the history. But it's theorized that SW was stood for Sons of War. So these two clans as well were warring with HLS at the same time. Armed forces, of course, basically fell apart and surrendered to Hope's Last Stand, and Commander, who is the leader, agreed to Dane's terms, which said that High Templar, who had caused so many problems for WA, was not allowed to be in any of Commander's current or future clans, and Commander agreed, and thus there was peace between Hope's Last Stand and armed forces. However, it wouldn't last long because shortly afterwards, MMM and Anaconda declared war on Hope's Last Stand, raided them, and also boasted that the Jedi Academy Masters, JAM, were their allies. But Dane, having been a former JAM member and knowing a few members in JAM, knew that they were not actually involved, and this was a lie that Anaconda was spouting. So at this point, Sanctifico slowly infiltrates the Mighty Masters of Mayhem, takes control of their channel website, and over the course of months destroys them. Anaconda is left clanless, but once again, Dane is grounded. Now, just to give you a timeline here, this was in July that Hope's Last Stand was founded, July 2002. In August, Hope's Last Stand successfully destroyed armed forces, and at the same time, Sanctifico successfully destroyed SW and TF, those two other rebel clans I briefly mentioned. In addition, in September of 2002 was when Hope's Last Stand raided the Mighty Masters of Mayhem and destroyed them. However, it was also in September that Dane was grounded, and without anybody to recruit, Hope's Last Stand effectively died in September as well. So that essentially spelt the end for WA there in September of 2002. Dane would continue playing StarCraft for a while, hanging out with other WA members, so in one form or another, you could say WA existed, but without much organization. It wouldn't be until February of 2003, 5 months later, that the Second Fleet era began, because WA was reformed by Dane, mostly because he was tired of dealing with the Imperial Alliance. Now, the Imperial Alliance was Anaconda, aka Lantoka's new clan that he had made after MMM's fall, and basically he was, out for vengeance against Dane and WA and constantly harassed him, and all of that basically helped convince Dane that he needed to reform the clan, along with the words of Loki, also known as Saint Loki the Savior, but at this time known as Mantis, who was originally recruited just before the Ragnarok in January 2002, but returned now in February of 2003, convinced Dane to refound the clan and became a pivotal member during the Second Fleet era. Other refounding members of WA at this time were Warrior, Neo, Rakanishu, and Saint Dippity Dog himself. During this era as well, Saint Blitzkrieg and Saint Rules were both recruited. WA would die again, nearly, quite soon after this because of Imperial Alliance and Anaconda's constant efforts to spam their boards and website and channel. However, Saint Rules stuck around, kept recruiting, kept going on, and those efforts convinced Dane to keep going with WA and not let it die. And that was why Saint Rules got his title, Saint Rules the Hopeful, who is actually my avatar right now. So that's I'm going through my document here. That's about a summary of just about everything we've got in Hope's Last Stand. If anybody's curious for a little bit more detail on it, we do have the history of the clans, which is on the forums under Vesborger's archives in the Dane Edda. You can also look at the clan lineage chart, which shows some of the various rebel clans and different clans that led to WA and descended from WA, everything like that. Can help with sorting through some of that stuff, as well as there's some songs of Hope's Last Stand on there as well. But yeah, just looking through to see if there's anything I missed here in the timeline. Nope, that's about it. So, a lot of the story of Hope's Last Stand is the story of Saint Sanctifico and all the various rebel clans that he brought down. And, it was basically Sanctifico who just randomly was recruited in WA. Like I said, he was a channel spam recruit brought in by Dippity on a whim. This was when WA would send bots or themselves into various public channels on StarCraftBattle.net and just spam, hey, join WA, join WA, join WA, just copy paste some kind of message, right? Hoping they'd, get a couple of new recruits. And Sanctifico was one of those. Happened to join, happened to become extremely loyal to Dane and Hope's Last Stand at WA, and helped them bring down all of their opponents. Another thing worth bringing up is, of course, the debates of the morality of some of this stuff, because obviously was Hope's Last Stand in WA a victim many times, but at the same time, they did a lot of hacking, spamming, stealing websites and channels, all this stuff, which you really can't say was necessarily good, but we as WA, of course, look back at the history and say, well, it's a good thing we did that, or WA wouldn't still be around, but doesn't necessarily make it, doesn't necessarily justify it, one would say. But that is the history that we have for Hope's Last Stand, kind of gone over there. I think that's about everything I had for Hope's Last Stand here. Just double checking. Yeah, pretty much. So, solid 20 minutes there. I hope everyone enjoyed the that first lecture. But as I said, with the lecture concluded, we'll open it up to kind of a FAQ where we can discuss. Anyone can ask questions. We can dive further into any aspects of it. So yeah, I will open it up now. Does anybody have any questions or comments on the Hope's Last Stand lecture?
How many times did Dane get grounded during Hope's Last Stand?
During
Better question. How many months was he grounded for
True, true.
out of the quote exist? Like, what's the percentage of time that he was grounded for during its existence?
well, if you look, so technically during Hope's Last Stand, Dane was only grounded a single time, and it was the end of Hope's Last Stand. So basically, him being grounded spelled the end of the clan. But as well, he was grounded in May of 2002, which is basically so WoW was still kind of around post Ragnarok, but it was just only a few people. It was in a terrible spot, and Dane was grounded in May of 2002 for a month. And he would be grounded again for about a month in September of 2002, which was when Hope's Last Stand died. So it was 1 month after returning from a 1 month period of being grounded that Dane would found Hope's Last Stand with Deputy and Varsus. But this isn't even getting into the Dark Ages, which might be a future lecture series, which was a period of, believe, I want to say 4 to 6 months that Dane was grounded. And that's why it's called the Dark Ages, where there's various people kind of leading WA, including Warrior, Takaru, Loki, Commander. So that would be an interesting topic as well. But suffice to say that throughout WA's history, Dane has been grounded a lot.
I have a question. What happened to Varsus during all this? Like, you mentioned that he was there at the beginning, but just where did that go?
It is a good question. Varsus was not. So I was saying how Varsus he wasn't very active. The big thing Varsus was known for was just having his bots in the WA clan channel and keeping the channel open, and the bots would do automatically ban people who spam the channel, stuff like that. So that's the main thing Varsus would do. Um, at the time. One thing he did do, let me see if I can find it in here, that I think I may have actually skipped over. Here we are. Yes, so while Dane was grounded, um, High Templar was kind of beginning an anti-Dane campaign trying to destroy WA from within. One thing Varsus did do was warn Dane about this, because obviously Varsus was not grounded, but Dane didn't really take the threat too seriously, and he gave Varsus some advice for dealing with it, but when he returned, he found that the clan was effectively destroyed, and High Templar had left and joined armed forces with pretty much the bulk of WA's remaining members. So for the most part, throughout Hope's Last Stand, Varsus was just operating the clan channel in terms of having his bots in there. Most likely, I mean, we can guess that he would talk to Dane to kind of encourage him, as he certainly did throughout WA's history. But for the most part, he didn't have a very active role. He wasn't a big recruiter. He wasn't a big hacker helping to bring down enemy clans. He mostly just kind of kept the clan alive in terms of sticking by Dane, talking with him, encouraging him, and keeping his bots in the clan channel.
All right, cool. Does Varsus have a house? Is he House Dane?
He is House Dane, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so anybody have any other questions?
Wasn't Varsus in the clan recently? Is he currently a member?
No. We're thinking of Volunder, perhaps?
No, like last year in 2018. I remember seeing his name around in channels.
To my knowledge, he has not returned the entire time I've been in WA.
I see.
Warrior did come back. I know Euler was around for a while. Bender, aka Harold, actually did come back briefly. I believe he's still on the server.
Yes. Harold. I remember Harold.
Trying to think who else. there was a Draughter, who is Euler's recruit, who was around for a while. I believe he is on the server as well. But yeah, as far as I know, Varsis, I'm not sure if Dane still talks to him. I believe so, but has not really even returned to the Discord server or our forums or anything in at least, 13, 14 years.
Fair enough.
Well, anybody have any other questions? Sounds like maybe not. Well, yeah, looks like 30 minutes is looking like the pretty normal time for these, allowing for some extra time for if we have more questions, stuff like that. But I do hope everyone liked it. I know I think this is a cool time, if only because I like the whole lineage thing of houses tracing them back. You can kind of see right around this time where they all came from. Not only because the first concept of houses with House Laudel H was formed, and Dunhue Laudel H as the first lord, Sanctifico as the second lord. I guess I can touch briefly on how that turned into House Dippity. So, Sanctifico would be the second lord of House Laudel H. The third lord would be Dippity himself, because it was during the later on that the house would be renamed House Dippity by Saint Loki the Savior in honor of Saint Dippity himself, who was the third lord of the House of Laudel H. So it was renamed after Dippity. And it was later on that houses based strictly on lineage rather than just kind of being like warbands were created. And we had our conventional House Dane and House Commander, as well as House Blitzkrieg being created. So you could basically say, in terms of the oldest houses, House Dane being, if we're looking at the oldest members in the houses, House Dane would be the oldest house, then House Commander, and then House Dippity. Because Dane, of course, starting the clan, Commander being the first recruit in June of 2001, and then Saint Dippity being recruited in August of 2001.
But wasn't House Dane like officially created like 5th or something?
Yeah, so if officially created, House Dane was created at the same time as House Blitzkrieg and House Commander. Technically, House Dippity was the one that was already in existence, but it was kind of reformed. At that time, it was House Laudel H, and it was reformed at the same time. So, technically speaking, lineage-based houses were all formed at the exact same time. At least the original 4. House Thief would be the next one that was created from descendants of House Blitzkrieg, and then House Kilroy later on in 2006 would be a clan that sort of merged with WA, Clan Jade Falcons on Mech Assault 2, that would form House Kilroy.
Also, is this whole thing going to be re-delivered at a later time? Because I came in like half an hour late.
So it's going to be uploaded to YouTube. The VOD will be on Twitch as soon as it's over as well, but I'm going to upload them to YouTube as well, and yeah. But I haven't scheduled a lecture series episode number 2 yet, but it probably will be the first Imperium era lecture I was planning, and I also have some ideas for further ones. Like I said, the Dark Ages I think would be a fun one, various eras of WA, and also having maybe one for each house I think would be fun too. But I'm open to ideas on that. I'm also open to anybody who wants to be like a lecturer for it, or run their own, or anything like that, or be a guest lecturer, or anything like that. Message me, let me know. Definitely happy to do that. But I'll try to schedule episode 2 pretty soon here, because I would like to do at least one or two more before July is out, just in honor of the Festival of Hope and everything like that. Because like we were saying at Fireside Chat, anybody who attends one of these lectures gets the upgraded Festival of Hope bark rather than just the basic one. All right, well, that is 30 minutes on the nose right there. So I think we'll probably conclude the lecture here, unless anybody did have any questions that came to mind, anything they thought of in the meantime. Cool. Sounds like notes. So thank you anybody watching the watching live or watching the VOD for this one, and thanks everyone for showing up. Hope everybody liked it. Yeah, again, any questions or ideas, anything like that related to these lectures, like I said, it's still in a formative stage. This is just the first one. So hopefully keep getting better and better. And yeah, hopefully everyone enjoyed it. And we'll see everybody next time. I'll announce when the next one is happening pretty soon here.